If you thought all architects' houses looked the same, take a look at this place. The kitchen's made out of recycled chopping boards. There's a ruined brick wall inspired by the film Trainspotting. The roof appears to be propped up by an archaeologist's ranging poles. And best of all, it's got a mountain on the back of it. This joyful house is the family home of Matt Barnes. He's used it as a testing ground to show that not all residential architecture needs to be white and polite. I'm Matt Gibberd, co-founder of The Modern House. Welcome to Homing In.
Hey,
hello.
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Very well indeed.
Come on in.
Thank you.
It was in a very poor condition. So first job is I came in and stripped it all out, stripped all the carpets out, and then we thought we'd try and live here for as long as we could. One moment which made us move was I answered the door to a pizza delivery guy. I closed the door and the whole hallway ceiling fell in just behind me, and he re-knocked on the door and said, "Are you all right?" Because it was so loud. I'm quite interested in this idea that actually building an architect's project have never really finished. Is this a ruin or is this in progress to be built? And we were thinking about what's like the archetypal derelict wall, and there's a scene in Trainspotting where he's moving from one half of the flat to the other, and they've got this a steel on these two acro props and these crumbling walls either side, and it perfectly frames the threshold between the two sides of the flat. So that kind of inspired these two. The process of deciding how much of the brick we took out was literally just drawing in chalk. Oh, that looks right. I mean, that doesn't look right. So then it was very much just designing as we go. And then these two columns are actually superficial, actually not needed from a structural perspective. But after looking at that Trainspotting scene, these basically serve to frame the view out and also to frame the brick wall as a thing, and it really changes the composition. The concrete wall, we didn't have a specification for the builder. We just showed him a few pictures and we thought, well, let's try this. And we just threw some cement on the wall and we kind of did it as we went. Oh, that looks quite nice. So this bulges out a bit. I didn't expect that. That looks quite nice. So it's kind of like a designing through making, I guess. Putting the more imperfect materials, the rough brick and the concrete, against these like highly man-made perfect materials like gloss tiles, which is very accurate and very precision. Again, emphasizes the imperfections and the perfect texture of the tiles.
Yeah, it's contrast. You need both, don't you?
Yeah. So the kitchen is made from recycled chopping boards, and the black is a mix of chopping boards and single-use plastic like microwave meal trays, and the blue is chopping boards mixed with milk bottle caps, so full fat blue milk. Me and a friend made the kitchen. Before I studied architecture, I was actually a labourer on a building site for a contractor, and I think it's really important for architects to understand how things are put together by actually making stuff themselves.
Is this a family motto? Waste not, want not. Why have you put these words in?
Yes, I was thinking about kitchens, and I was thinking about kitchens that I've spent my life in. We used to stay a lot down my grandmother's house down in Sydenham in Devon, and that was her phrase. So whenever I walk into a kitchen, I always think of waste not, want not. And that was obviously more of like from a food waste perspective, but I think it ties quite nicely into the use of recycled and recyclable materials, and this whole idea of sustainability, and obviously the situation we're in, the climate crisis, I think is a good reminder. On the outside of the existing house, we had to put in new concrete lintels because all the wooden ones were rotten. So we've actually faced the concrete lintels in the offcuts of the plastic. All the bricks that we demolished or took down from the back of the house, we've used as a new patio at the back of the garden. So I think it's really about trying to limit removal of material and using what you've got, and yeah, just, I mean, it saves money, it's better for the environment, and yeah, it adds to the character, I think, and story and memory of the project. So, the mountain. So, I guess the starting point for this is we were looking at the structure of the extension itself, and wanted to try and, I was looking at quite a bit of sort of high-tech architecture, and especially the Hopkins house, and trying to think of this idea of making the structure as thin and fragile as possible and efficient. And there's this amazing picture of the bobsleds ride in Disneyland San Diego, which is a fake mountain, and the ride goes in and out of it, but there's amazing pictures of it during construction, and it's got this crazy complex steel frame, and they built it's a concrete mountain. They built it from the top down like this hyper-realistic mountain. So that really became the inspiration or the cultural reference for this. It's made of foamed aluminium, which is basically like an Aero bar, but just
right, Aero chocolate bar.
Yeah, Aero chocolate bar, but like raw aluminium.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's wild.
Yeah. The planner was initially like, we didn't describe it as a mountain, we just drew it.
Right.
And he was very much, why is that line wiggly on the top? And I was like, well, that's just the material that we're using. And he was a bit skeptical until we actually showed him some precedents further down the road, which are just simple off-centered pitched roofs on the extensions, and if you squint your eyes, you can. It does just a lot. Yeah, it does just look like a dual pitch off-center. So we got it anyway.
Are they proud of it, your kids?
I think they're probably a bit too young to be proud, but I think they're very because they see it as normal that you've got a mountain on your house. They're only 4 and 2, so I think when they're in nursery and they say, draw your house, and they draw a mountain,
yeah,
the nursery teachers are like, what?
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring personality of the clients back into the projects and treat the elements, architectural elements, walls, ceilings, staircases, as the foreground rather than the background. My wife's a geographer, so we've got like landscape elements, we've got the mountain, we've got this wall is imagined as cave, and then we've got this kind of like ripply dining table, which is supposed to represent the lake.
Okay, so you got the lake inside the cave.
Lake inside the cave. This all came from the mountain originally. We started with the mountain and then kind of worked back. Then we were talking about how do you measure the landscape. So the steel columns become ranging poles, like you survey like sand dunes. This point here is basically the same distance from the floor at all points. So as you progress through the space and step down, the level of red line steps down as well. So it's kind of a sort of a reference point. And then you've got these randomly placed survey marker tiles.
What do these denote then?
Well, I was walking through Liverpool Street Station, and they were doing quite extensive works. And you know, when they're doing any kind of like heavy infrastructure work, which involves basement, they monitor movement. So they put all of these survey markers on to come and monitor it every month.
Okay.
But you would also do it in a landscape environment as well. They're probably more expensive than terrazzo, which we got like dirt cheap. So this is It's amazing materials, steel enamel. This, I think enamel ware you get in the kitchen, like. But there's a company on the Isle of Wight who actually make all of the signs for the underground. So they do all the screen printing for that, and it's steel sheet and then glazed by hand and then fired in an oven. I think like 800 degrees. And we've used it on a few projects for like worktops and stuff like that. It's really, really great. And you can add this to sort of like ripple effect to it as well.
And what about the base?
So that's made, very crudely made of 4x4 timber, and then I mixed recycled car tyres, shredded with a resin, applied it to the wood and then spray painted them. They're slowly degrading over time as my children pick at it, but it was kind of like the idea about the tables was that the legs were kind of like this craggy underground cave, and underneath the really smooth rippling surface of the water. I think there's kind of like a tendency in architecture, or especially domestic architecture, to your home be all materials are smooth and safe and cozy, and for me that's kind of, a lot of people actually say, oh, isn't this a bit dangerous for your kids? Aren't they going to like graze their elbow on the wall? I was like, well, they also exist in the world outside of the house, which is by far more dangerous than in here. So in terms of space planning, this room was essentially the same shape as it was now. We stripped out the floorboards, put new underfloor heating in. I don't know if you've been to the John Soane Museum.
Yes, I have.
Amazingly dense space full of architectural fragments in no particular order. So went to the local plasterworks, which is just down the road, and asked him for any seconds knockoffs that he had, and he, to my luck, he basically said, everything you see on the shelves, take, because I've been trying to get rid of it for ages.
Oh, wow.
So we got this whole collection of architectural plasterwork for free, and then it was basically just a case of how do we arrange it in a Soanean way. Again, making the architecture the foreground, meaning we don't need to put art on the walls. The walls are the thing. Because all the spaces are quite different in the atmosphere, I think the kids occupy them in their own unusual ways, and they because their imagination is so rich with stories, and they imagine themselves as princesses, fairies, monsters, dinosaurs, and it's interesting to see how they almost use their house as a set for these imagined worlds. And yeah, I find it quite, because whenever they're in the dark living room, they always create like almost like a bunker or like a house, and they hide under the cushions, and then they feel like quite closed in. Whereas in the more open kitchen and extension space, they're always like running around. So we come up the stairs. And then up in this hallway, this was kind of, it's just quite long hallway. This was by far the darkest place in the house. So there was a ceiling underneath these blue rafters. So the idea is that we just basically take all of the finishes out, keep the structure in, and treat them as elements, and then just put a roof light, single roof light in, and it really just illuminates this space and becomes much more, I guess, more of like a gallery space in terms of like, this is where we can put art.
Well, I was going to say, it's the first space we've seen your artworks in. You've treated it much more like a more traditional architect space, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was partly because we were running out of money, but also partly because it's kind of like we kind of treated the bedrooms and the sleeping areas more of a calm space.
Okay. I really like this. I think people don't do this enough in their houses, which is what you've done, is think about the character of each space. Think about how you're going to use it, what time of day you're going to use it, and then you can have these really quite different atmospheres, can't you, in the different parts of the house. So it's very apparent when you come up these stairs. There's a transition to something really different.
And then this was one large bedroom, so we moved the bathroom from this little room into here. It's very poppy again, so the idea was that we picked up these materials and brought the level of the ceiling down in terms of the colour, so then it appears more like it's open as a sky. And then simple things where we put in this instead of having a bath panel on the side, these fairly standard steel enamel baths come with this like natural gradient where they've sprayed the enamel on, so I thought that's quite a nice feature, so we just put in a steel frame and exposed the bottom of the bath.
I've never seen that before. Really like it.
Yeah, they're really cool. A lot of people say, "Oh, this is too much for me," and then my response is that, well, it's not for you. It's kind of like, this is a house which we as a family love to live in and represents our tastes, and the fact that most people would live in with these colours and textures and references is good, because then it means it feels more personal to us.
I think that's right. I love the idea that someone would try and copy this house somewhere else, because you couldn't do it, and that's why it's so successful, because it's your house.